Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Nancy Heck, and I'm the Director of Community Relations and Economic Development for the City of Carmel. I want to introduce a few people before we begin that are standing up here supporting the mayor. And that would be, starting on this side, Adam Austin, one of our council members, our council president, Kevin Ryder. Sorry, I can't remember who's behind me. Our Mayor Jim Brainard, obviously, and then council member Jeff Worrell and council member Miles Nelson. And now, without any further hesitation, it's my pleasure to introduce Mayor Jim Brainard.
Thank you all for joining me today. I made the difficult decision not to seek re-election for Mayor of Carmel in the 23 election cycle. I am leaving public office, but I will not be retiring. I plan to seek new opportunities in the private sector. I've often been asked to offer advice on matters of city design, development, sustainability, and livability, and I look forward to possibly helping other communities and business sectors learn from Carmel's success. As I look out at many of my friends here and others that have called me today, I want to express my enormous gratitude for having the opportunity and joy of serving Carmel for 27 years. Carmel is an excellent fiscal health, has forward motion, and this is a good time to transition to new leadership. Carmel has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country. It has attracted a tremendous amount of private investment, has some of the lowest tax and utility rates anywhere, and a very high bond rating. I'm proud of our accomplishments. And these are not my accomplishments. They're the people of Carmel's accomplishments that have been implemented by our tremendous staff, by the many dedicated city council and other public officials. But I'm proud of what's happened during this period of time, and serving the residents of this city as mayor has been one of the greatest honors of my life. I will use the remainder of my term, which has another almost 16 months in it. It ends on December 31st, 2023, to complete and advance various projects designed to enhance Carmel's future. I want to thank the citizens and businesses of Carmel who have supported me in implementing this vision that has made Carmel a premier city in which to live, work, and raise a family. I also want to say how much I value each and every one of our city employees, past and present, as well as our elected officials who I've mentioned, who have worked hard to achieve our goals and provide the leadership and commitment to public service that has made Carmel, Indiana, such a special place. Over the next several months, I intend to speak more about my plans and how I may continue to contribute to Carmel and hopefully other communities around the globe. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Mayor, do you have anybody in idea who you would like to see?
Well, there are many good people that could be mayor in Carmel. You know, the community, the people that live in Carmel are thoughtful, they pay attention, and they don't need me to tell them who to elect as the next mayor. If I saw something terrible about to happen, I might speak out, but generally speaking, the people in Carmel are thoughtful, and they can make that decision. We're fortunate, you know, we have many people in Carmel who are well suited in government today and in the business community that would do a good job managing this city. Yes, sir.
Thing that you've done a lot around here, obviously, in the years you've been here. Can you think of a couple things or things you're most proud of?
Well, they all work together in many ways, but when I first was knocking on doors in 1995 as a much younger man asking people to elect me mayor, I heard quite a few things. Number one was I wish we could get that old rail trail, that old Monon rail. It was a linear junkyard at the time. The tracks have been pulled off. I wish we could make that into a trail. I also heard I wish we could put trails along most of our streets. We had none at that time. Hazeldale Parkway, one of our first projects, did that for the first time. Today we have close to 250 miles of bike trails, both in parks and along trails, but along our city streets as well, so everybody can get to the center of town. But probably the theme I heard most in many different ways from many different people is I wish we had a downtown. Carmel at that time didn't really have a downtown. It had a few retail strip centers scattered around the city. It had the old town area, which is now the Art and Design District, but there wasn't much there. Public library, the one that's being remodeled now, wasn't built yet. It wasn't open until the first week in May of 1999, about 4 years later. We didn't have the Art and Design District. That area was struggling financially, and we knew. I also said we need to combine the township with the city. We were only 18 square miles at that point. 32 square miles were outside the city in Clay Township. And I said, it needs to be one entity, much like Unigov in Indianapolis. And we did, I think, 55 or 56 annexations to get that to happen. And that was key to then having the resources to do many of the things that we've done since. We're all pulling together on the same page at that point, and we're not inefficient. We're not sending a paving truck or a police officer to pave this side of the street from the city and this side from the county. That made very little sense. So we mapped out what could be a new downtown for a city of 50 square miles. And I should point out it's about double the size of Manhattan in New York City. And that is what has become the city center. We fortunately, we were able to buy 60 acres from one seller, undeveloped land, and another, I think, 5 parcels from other sellers. There was an abandoned retail strip center that was in foreclosure. We bought that, as long as some other small buildings, tore them down, and then worked with the development community to design what we see behind us today, anchored by the Palladium. City Center, added City Center Drive to get people there and out, and today we have one of the best towns of any medium-sized city anywhere in the United States. But it was those public-private partnerships, and I think some leadership from city staff and our policy of purposely setting out to create a downtown that has made a tremendous amount of difference. And it's been those efforts to create something more than just a car suburb, but a walkable city. That has been so exciting. And thing about it, it's a tremendous opportunity. Most people don't get to work on projects like that during their lifetime, and I've been able to, and be forever have gratitude that I was able to help lead that effort.
It doesn't seem like you've run out of ideas for what's next, so why did you decide this was the right time to hand off?
Well, I'm 68 years old. I'll be 69 when the term ends. I was talking to some friends, and I said, well, I have 3 or 4 projects. Maybe I will run again. And then it suddenly occurred to me I could probably be 98 and have 3 or 4 more projects I'd like to see done. And so I thought, I have to take that sort of thought out of the equation. Carmel's in good footing. It's in a good place right now. We've got good cash balances. We've got a great fiscal plan in place, tremendous bond rating. The amount of private sector investment capital we see flowing to the city is unprecedented, I think, for a city our size in the Midwest, almost anywhere in the country. I was working on a project today that's going to be introduced to the public tonight. That's just one project, $700 million investment from the private sector in that project. Most cities our size see one of those every 40 or 50 years. We see them every few months. So it's a good time. There's great department heads in place that will stay and continue to serve the people in Carmel. And there's a good bench of people involved in city government that can take over. I thought the time was right. Yes, Sandra.
What do you see for Carmel in the next 10 to 20 years?
Well, I'd like to see more of what we've done. I see tremendous success in the future. We have this tremendous tax base, over 150 corporate headquarters that pay the majority of our taxes. Our infrastructure is in great shape. It can almost be better. We're become, with our roundabouts, one of the safest cities in the country. Our fatality rate is 1/6 the national average, and 1/6 the national average of the city to our south too. They're right at the national averages because of the improvements and work our engineering department and consulting engineers, I see some of them here today, have done to make this one of the safest cities from a traffic standpoint in anywhere, as well as, we won in cities between 100,000 and 300,000 a couple of years. I think for 2020, we were, according to an insurance company that ranks these things, we were the absolute safest city in the United States in that size category. And that included traffic facilities, traffic fatalities and injuries, but also safety in general. So I see these things continuing. I see future leadership building on this base and continuing to make this the premier city in the Midwest in the United States. Medium-sized city. We'll never be New York City or Indianapolis or Chicago. We don't aspire to be that. At least our administration doesn't. But we aspire to be the best at everything we take on. Not number 5, not number 10, but the best. And I hope that and I believe that striving to be the best will continue for many, many years.
Curious if you could talk more broadly about Hamilton County and the new era that we're going into. We have a relatively new mayor in Noblesville. Looks like we're going to have a new mayor in Westfield. Now we're going to have a new mayor in Carmel. What do you see for Hamilton County as a whole? Like, what kind of era are we heading into now with this sort of remarkable period of turnover for these cities?
Well, cities never quit evolving. You go to an old city in Europe or Asia, and you read about mayors and city councils and leaders from 700, 800, 9 years ago, basically doing the same thing we're doing. So cities are constantly evolving, but there's a culture to each city. Every city is a bit different, and I think Hamilton County is focused on a high quality of life for citizens. We know that we don't have mountains. It's a cliche. We say it so much, but it's true. There are no mountain oceans out there, and some days we have bad weather. We're not Southern California or Florida. Of course, they have bad weather in Florida too, and they have hurricanes. But we don't have perfect weather, and we certainly don't have mountains and oceans. So we have to compete for the best workforce we can get to keep our corporate. They have to be able to recruit the best and brightest people to those corporate headquarters and research firms. We have to make certain our city is beautiful and pays attention to the quality of life here. That's how we compete as a city. And Carmel's done that successfully. And I think that's our culture here, and I see that culture expanding throughout Hamilton County. I think other leaders in this county understand that as well, that it's particularly important for people that aren't on the top of the economic strata either. People that had the good fortune to go to university and possibly grad school, they generally are going to have the money to travel to the most beautiful places on earth and see beautiful cities. People that work hourly jobs, not much above minimum wage, probably don't have the discretionary income to do those things. But yet they should have the right to live in a city that's beautiful and exciting and fun. And so I think that's one of the keys here as well, is to make certain that Carmel continues and Hamilton County continues to offer a really high quality of life to all its citizens.
When did you decide for sure you're not running?
Over the last several months, it's been on my mind for some time. I struggled with it in the last election. And then we had, of course, COVID, and the term was not quite what we expected it to be, but we still made a lot of progress in this city. Over the last several months, I've come to this conclusion and solidified it over the last several weeks.
Mr. Mayor, you've taken some divergent positions from national Republicans on issues like climate change. What advice do you have for Republicans both here in Indiana and nationally ahead of
Well, I think people in both parties can fall into the trap of following the party line and not thinking about what's best for the people that they serve. Thinking too much about sound bites, thinking too much about the next primary. I think primary elections tend to drive candidates to extreme positions on both sides of the aisle, and then it's hard for them to come back and govern and make compromises, which is the basis of our representative system. So I would encourage people not to pay too much attention, but to listen carefully to their constituents. I have yet to meet a Republican or a Democrat who doesn't want their family to drink clean water and breathe clean air. These are issues that transcend and should transcend politics and sound bites, and I hope that I've seen way too much partisanship in the last few years at the national level, the state level. Fortunately, we haven't seen it that much locally, and I'm proud of that. But we need, as we're all citizens of this great country, we need to think about that and to try to think about the pros and cons of issues, get back to the point where we can discuss differences without insulting people who may look at issues differently, and then we can make progress again as a nation. And I feel very strongly about those things. Any other questions? Well, once more, I want to thank everyone for coming, and for those of you that live and work in Carmel, thank you for the opportunity of a lifetime to be your mayor. It's been a great run. Thank you very much.